Welcome to Zoe Crossdressing. Mom's friends mistook me for her daughter, and instead of correcting them, she smiled and went along with it. I didn't know it then, but that single moment would quietly rearrange how I understood myself. I never imagined a summer break could do that. My name's Tyler. I'm 18, just finished high school, awkward in social situations, and absolutely not the kind of guy you'd expect to see experimenting with makeup or standing barefoot in front of a mirror wearing a light summer dress. At least, that's who I thought I was. If you asked people from school, they'd probably shrug and say I was forgettable. A bit tall, too thin, never loud. I stayed away from sports, preferred my games and half-finished electronics projects, and mastered the art of blending into the background. But there was always something I kept buried, even from myself. I never labeled it. Never gave it a name. But starting around 13, whenever the house was empty, I'd sometimes wander into my mom's room. I'd try on a blouse. Slip my feet into heels that were a size too small. It began as curiosity, turned into something more absorbing, and always ended the same way, with shame. I told myself it would fade if I ignored it long enough. Once, I mentioned it to my girlfriend, Emma, like it was a joke. She laughed, genuinely amused, and said she couldn't imagine me like that at all. I laughed too, but her words stayed with me longer than I wanted to admit. If she couldn't see it, maybe it really wasn't meant to be seen. That summer, I stayed with my mom in her quiet townhouse in the suburbs. My dad had been gone for years, so it was just the two of us when I wasn't away at school. She worked from home running a small online boutique and often entertained friends, stylish women in their 40s, confident, polished, always smelling faintly of expensive perfume. I hadn't interacted with them much before. One unremarkable Thursday changed everything. Mom rushed out unexpectedly because of a problem with an order. I stayed behind, scrolling on my phone, half bored, half restless. That's when I noticed her bedroom door hadn't been fully closed. Something about it pulled at me, the soft light, the familiar scent, the quiet. I drifted inside without thinking. Hanging near the back of her closet was a sundress I hadn't seen before. Pale pink. Light and airy. New. I touched the fabric, told myself I'd just look. Minutes later, I was stepping into it, my heart pounding harder than it should have. The dress slid into place effortlessly, settling against my body like it belonged there. And standing there, alone in that quiet room, I realized this summer wasn't going to be what I expected at all. The dress sat a little slack around my waist, but it wasn't as wrong as I expected. I stepped closer to the mirror and stopped breathing. The reflection didn't feel like mine anymore. The awkward boy I was used to seeing had vanished. In his place stood someone unfamiliar, gentler somehow. The fabric traced my shape, skimmed my chest, moved when I shifted my weight. Every tiny motion felt graceful, intentional. For a brief second, I wasn't hiding. I wasn't shrinking. I felt right. Then reality crept back in. My hair was a mess. My face was unmistakably masculine. No illusion, no transformation, just a guy wearing a dress. That familiar wave of shame rose in my chest, sharp and heavy. Why did this feel so natural when it wasn't supposed to? I didn't let myself think. I rushed back to my room, pulse hammering, and pulled the storage boxes from beneath my bed. Relics from a past I'd tried to bury, cheap wigs, smudged makeup palettes, things Emma had once handed me laughing, never knowing how much they meant. I hadn't opened those boxes in months. But this time wasn't playful. It wasn't curiosity. It felt deliberate. My fingers shook as I worked. Foundation first. Too much in some places, not enough in others. A bit of blush. Mascara that clumped before I fixed it. I wasn't good at this, but with every stroke, the hard edges of my face softened. When I finally pulled the wig on, honey blonde hair spilling down past my shoulders, I sucked in a breath. The person staring back could pass. My heart raced as I turned side to side. The dress moved with me, light and airy. I smiled without realizing it. Then the doorbell rang. Everything inside me seized. Mom wasn't due back for hours. I stared at the door like it had personally betrayed me. Another chime echoed through the house. My phone vibrated on the dresser. Hey love. Totally slipped my mind to Dana, Rachel, and Michelle are coming by for brunch. Can you let them in? Be home in about an hour. XO. The words blurred. My stomach dropped straight through the floor. They were already here. I spun back toward the mirror. The girl looking at me seemed scared out of her mind, but alive in a way I'd never seen before. My hands flew to the zipper at the back of the dress. Another ring. Closer voices now. Laughter. Too late. I crept down the hall, heart pounding so loudly I was sure they could hear it. Through the small window beside the door, I saw them, 3 polished women in sunglasses, holding drinks and gift bags, relaxed and confident. One of them tilted her head. That's odd, she said. Helen said her daughter would be home. Daughter? Before my brain caught up, my hand was already on the handle. The door swung open. They all looked at me. Their expressions lit up instantly. Oh. You must be Tyler's sister, one of them said warmly. You look just like your mom. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. Another stepped forward, smiling wide. You're absolutely adorable. Helen never mentioned how gorgeous her daughter is. And then, behind me, I heard heels. My mom's voice. I turned slowly. She took me in every detail. The dress. The wig. The makeup. Our eyes locked. She didn't gasp. She didn't frown. She smiled. Sliding an arm around my waist, she faced her friends. Girls, she said calmly, as if this were the most natural thing in the world, this is my daughter. Her hand squeezed gently at my side. Isn't she lovely? My heart forgot how to beat. I didn't understand what she was doing. Or why she was doing it. But the tone in her voice told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't teasing, and it wasn't a misunderstanding she planned to fix. She believed what she was saying. And that realization scared me, because some quiet part of me didn't want her to stop. My mom's arm stayed around my waist, solid and grounding. Her warmth felt real, anchoring, while I stood there stiff as stone. Across from us, the 3 women continued smiling, relaxed and welcoming, as if nothing about this moment was unusual. They were seeing someone I had never been allowed to be. Or maybe someone I'd never allowed myself to be. Come on in, Mom said easily, stepping aside like this was an ordinary afternoon. Like her world hadn't just tilted on its axis. Rachel brushed past me, her fingers briefly grazing my hand. Your hair is gorgeous, she said softly. Another voice followed. You have your mother's cheekbones. Thank you, I murmured, my voice barely audible. I tried to keep it gentle, restrained, unfamiliar. My pulse roared in my ears. I couldn't catch my breath. I looked at Mom, silently asking her to explain, to undo this. She didn't. Instead, she met my eyes and gave the smallest wink. Just like that, I wasn't her son in this room. The women drifted into the living space, placing their bags down, removing sunglasses, settling in with effortless confidence. Their perfume filled the air, sweet, floral, warm. It felt like stepping into a different reality, one softer and more confusing than anything I knew. Mom leaned close and whispered, just go with it. What? I hissed under my breath. Mom, what are you doing? She gave me a look that stopped me cold. Not playful. Not careless. Certain. Trust me, she said quietly. You're doing fine, sweetheart. That word hit harder than I expected. She'd never used it much when I was growing up. I should have objected. Should have retreated to my room and stripped away the disguise, scrubbed everything off, pretended this never happened. But I didn't move. Because she hadn't rejected me. She hadn't panicked or scolded or laughed. She'd embraced it by me, without hesitation. And beneath the fear and confusion, something else rose up, unexpected and unsettling. Relief. Brunch passed like a dream I wasn't sure I was allowed to be having. I perched on the edge of the white couch, legs tucked neatly to one side the way I'd seen girls do on TV, hyper-aware of every movement, every glance. And yet, I didn't feel invisible anymore. My fingers were locked tight around the stem of a mimosa, but I never took a sip. My throat felt sealed shut anyway. When I spoke, it came out thin and quiet, like I was afraid sound itself might betray me. I kept my gaze low, shoulders tense. Every burst of laughter from the women felt sharp, like I was moments away from being exposed. Any second now, I thought. Someone would squint. Someone would say it out loud. That's not a girl. That's Tyler. But it never happened. They chatted easily, about book clubs and last-minute vacations, about bad dates and the absurdity of dating men younger than them. Dana passed her phone around, proudly showing off her new rescue dog bundled into a ridiculous pink sweater. Everyone cooed. Then Rachel turned to me. "Have you ever thought about modeling?" she asked, studying me with genuine interest. "You have such a natural look." Natural. The word echoed strangely in my head as I smiled, stiff and uncertain. Nothing about me felt natural. Foundation, mascara, borrowed hair, borrowed confidence. It all felt borrowed. And yet, Mom didn't interrupt. Not once. She leaned into it. "She's a little shy," Mom said casually, like she'd been saying it my whole life. "She just finished school and is still finding her footing. I've been letting her help with the boutique. She has great instincts for style." With every sentence, she stitched together a version of me that didn't exist before. A daughter. Someone softer. Someone she spoke about with pride. When the door finally closed behind them, the house fell quiet in a way that felt too loud. I stood in the hallway, unmoving, staring at the wood grain of the door. My back was damp beneath the dress. The wig felt heavy, itchy. "What was that?" I whispered. Mom set her keys down and turned toward me. Her expression wasn't angry. Not disappointed. Just thoughtful. Almost gentle. "Why didn't you tell me, Ty?" she asked softly. I swallowed. I'd rehearsed this conversation 100 times in my head. In every version, it ended badly, with raised voices, embarrassment, regret. None of them included brunch and compliments. "I didn't mean for any of this," I said quietly. "I know," she replied. "But it happened. And you handled yourself with grace." I shook my head. "This isn't me. I just tried something on. I didn't want anyone to see." She raised a hand, stopping me, not harshly. Kindly. There was a pause. "Tyler," she said, resting her hand on my shoulder, grounding me. "You've always been gentle. Observant. Thoughtful. Those things aren't flaws." Her voice softened. "And if this being like this makes you feel something real, I don't want you to bury it." The tears came before I could stop them. "You seemed happy today," she added quietly. "Happier than I've seen you in a long time." That was it. I collapsed onto the couch, everything spilling out at once. The wig shifted and I pulled it off, tossing it aside, my real hair sticking out in every direction. "I don't know who I am," I said, my voice cracking. She sat beside me and wrapped her arms around me without hesitation. "That's okay," she murmured. "You don't need all the answers right now. Just know this, I'm proud of you. No matter what." That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The sundress hung over the chair. The wig rested beside it. I expected to feel embarrassed, maybe even ashamed. Instead, I felt raw, uncovered, and strangely, safe. The version of me I'd worn like armor, the quiet, unremarkable boy, felt thinner somehow, like it was starting to slip away. In the morning, there was a note taped to my mirror. "Come down when you're ready." And for the first time, I believed I might be. "We're going shopping." Mom. I stared at the note for a long time, long enough for the words to start feeling unreal. Shopping. Not "we should talk," not "let's process yesterday." Shopping, for clothes. For me. I considered pretending I never saw it. Acting like yesterday was some strange fluke we could both politely forget. But something inside me had already shifted. A door had cracked open, and instead of shutting it, my mom was standing there, hand outstretched. So I didn't ignore the note. I showered longer than usual, shaved with care, ran a brush through my hair until it almost cooperated. When I finally came downstairs wearing my usual hoodie and jeans, Mom paused, gave me a slow once-over, and smiled. "Oh no," she said lightly, grabbing her purse. "If we're doing this, we're doing it properly. And that hoodie is not part of the plan." The drive started in silence. I hugged myself, watching sunlight flicker through the trees as they rushed past. Mom didn't interrogate me. She let the radio hum softly, let the quiet stretch until my nerves settled. Finally, I asked the question that had been sitting in my chest since yesterday. "Why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you correct them?" She kept her eyes on the road. "Because you looked terrified," she said simply. "And because you also looked lighter than I've ever seen you. I wanted to give you a space where you didn't have to disappear." I swallowed. "You don't think it's wrong?" She reached across the console and squeezed my hand. "I think it's you. And I love you." We didn't pull into a loud mall or a glossy chain store. Instead, she parked in front of a small boutique tucked between a florist and a nail salon. Inside, the air smelled like lavender and clean fabric. Soft music played. Mannequins wore pastel dresses and airy skirts that looked like they belonged in summer dreams. The woman at the counter lit up when she saw Mom. "Helen. It's been ages." Then she turned to me. "And who's this?" Mom didn't hesitate. "My daughter." The word landed hard, but not painfully. More like a spark. The shop owner smiled warmly. "Well then," she said, "we're going to have fun today." The next couple of hours blurred together. Blouses with delicate details. Skirts that moved when I walked. Dresses in colors I'd never let myself consider. Mom waited outside the fitting room, offering gentle suggestions, fixing straps, holding things up with an excited grin. "Try this one with a belt. That neckline really suits you. Let's soften the shoulders, trust me." I'd never seen her like this, so engaged, so joyful. Like we were both discovering something new at the same time. When I finally stepped out wearing a soft lilac wrap dress and simple flats, she just stared for a second. Then she smiled. "There you are," she said quietly. "You look radiant." Jules slipped a delicate necklace around my neck as a gift. "A little something to remember today," she said. As we left the shop, Mom looped her arm through mine. "Lunch?" she asked. "My treat." And for the first time, the idea of being seen didn't scare me nearly as much as it used to. She never said it out loud, but I felt it in the way she walked beside me, the way she didn't rush or glance around nervously. She wanted to be seen with me like this. She was proud. Lunch itself was oddly ordinary. We sat outside on a sunlit patio, sipping iced tea and picking at fruit, talking about nothing important. Normal things. Safe things. But my nerves refused to settle. My phone lay face up on the table, stubbornly silent. Emma still hadn't replied. I'd texted her that morning, nothing serious, just a casual check-in, but the lack of response made my mind spiral. I imagined her finding out somehow. Showing up unexpectedly. Seeing me exactly like this. Mom noticed my distraction. "Something on your mind?" she asked gently. I hesitated before admitting it. "Emma doesn't know about any of this." She nodded slowly and took a sip of her drink. "Do you want her to?" I stared at the condensation sliding down my glass. "I don't know," I said honestly. "She joked about it once. Thought it was funny. But if she saw me like this, she'd panic." "Then maybe," Mom said carefully, "she isn't meant to walk this part with you." The words landed harder than I expected. I cared about Emma, at least I thought I did. But standing there, still unsure of who I was becoming, I couldn't imagine trying to explain any of this to her. "She's just so confident," I said quietly. "And I've spent so long trying to fit into what she wanted." Mom reached across the table and laced her fingers through mine. "Then maybe it's time you start figuring out what you want." Back at home, something changed. I didn't rush upstairs to change. I stayed in the dress. I helped Mom with chores, folded towels, painted my nails at the kitchen table. I even caught myself humming as I adjusted the strap of my flats, like this was just me now. Then the doorbell rang. Panic hit instantly. My thoughts raced: neighbors, friends, anyone. Mom glanced up calmly. "Relax. Jules mentioned she might stop by." But it wasn't Jules. It was Emma. I froze halfway up the stairs, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might give me away. She hadn't texted, hadn't warned me, just showed up like she always used to, back when everything felt simpler. I retreated, holding my breath. "Hi, Mrs. Monroe." Emma's voice floated up, cheerful and familiar. "Is Tyler home?" "Oh," Mom paused. "Just for a second. He's upstairs." "Perfect," Emma said. "I'll go say hi." My pulse spiked. Mom's tone shifted, gentle but firm. "Actually, he's not feeling well. Maybe it's better if you come back another time." Silence. "Oh," Emma said slowly. "Is he okay?" "He's just figuring some things out," Mom replied. That answer meant everything and nothing at all. I stayed hidden until I heard the door close. When I finally came down, Mom looked at me, not upset, not disappointed. Just honest. "She's going to find out eventually," she said. "I know," I whispered. That night, I stood in front of the mirror once more. Same dress. Same makeup. Same reflection. But it didn't feel like dress up anymore. It felt like the beginning of something I couldn't unsee. This time, the reflection didn't feel like a disguise. I didn't see a boy playing dress up or hiding behind borrowed pieces. I saw a girl, uncertain, overwhelmed, but unmistakably real. My chest tightened, and without thinking, I breathed out a name I hadn't spoken in years. Lena. It had always belonged to me, tucked away somewhere quiet and protected. Saying it now felt like clicking a lock into place. I spent most of the following day in my room, not because I was scared, but because everything felt new and fragile, like I might shatter the moment if I rushed it. The mirror no longer intimidated me. I could sit in front of it calmly, lifting the mascara wand with care, taking my time as if it mattered, because it did. Tyler no longer hovered behind my eyes. Lena was there instead, tentative but breathing. Still, Emma lingered in the background of my thoughts like an unresolved storm. She hadn't reached out again. No texts. No calls. That wasn't like her. I could feel something coming. I sat cross-legged on my bed wearing denim shorts and a soft pink top Mom had picked out for me. My nails were still painted pale lavender, a quiet reminder of how far I'd already stepped. My phone vibrated. "Emma, I'm coming over tonight. We need to talk." My stomach dropped. I went through the afternoon on autopilot. set the table, straightened the cushions, moved through the house in a sundress and light makeup, trying to keep my breathing steady. Mom watched me quietly for a while before speaking. "You know this is coming," she said gently. I nodded. My throat felt tight. "I know. Do you want me here?" I shook my head. "I need to do this myself." She pulled me into a long hug, the kind that says more than words ever could. "No matter what happens," she whispered, "I'm proud of you." When the doorbell rang at 7:12, my hands trembled. I didn't change. I didn't want to. Emma needed to see me, not the version I'd shaped myself into for her comfort, but the truth. I opened the door. She stopped cold. Her eyes moved over me slowly, the sandals, the gloss on my lips, the way I stood. I didn't shrink. I didn't apologize. "Tyler," she said carefully. I took a breath. "I go by Lena," I said quietly. For a moment, she didn't respond. She just stared, then stepped inside and closed the door behind her. "This is a joke," she said. It wasn't a question. I shook my head. Her eyes widened. "You're serious?" Another nod. She let out a sharp laugh. "So what, this is just your thing now? Wearing my makeup? Playing dress up when I'm not around?" "It's not yours," I said, my voice steady despite how hard my heart was pounding. "And it's not a game. This is who I am, or who I'm finally letting myself be." She looked at me like I was a stranger. "You never told me," she said. "Not once." "I was scared," I whispered. "I didn't want to lose you." I met her gaze, forcing myself not to look away. "But I don't want to keep lying anymore." Emma's jaw tightened. And I knew, whatever came next, there was no going back. She paced across the living room, fists clenched at her sides, and finally spun toward me. "You know what this feels like," she demanded. "Like I've been dating a stranger. Like everything we had was just a cover for this." "No, Emma. Please, don't." My voice shook. "I'm trying to understand. I really am. But I don't even know who I'm supposed to be angry at. You? Or me?" Her words hit harder than I expected. She sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. "So, what does this mean for us?" "I don't know," I admitted. "I still care about you. I still love you. But I can't keep hiding." She lifted her eyes and looked at me, really looked, and for a heartbeat, the anger in them softened just a little. "I need time," she said quietly, standing up. "I'm not saying no. I just need time." She paused at the door, glancing back. "I liked the old you. But maybe you were never him to begin with." And then she left. I stayed frozen in the living room long after the door clicked shut. I didn't cry. Not yet. Because something strange had happened. I felt both broken and strangely light, as if a heavy piece of armor had finally cracked and fallen away. The next few days blurred into their own rhythm. I stopped dressing for anyone else. Skirts, tank tops, rompers, I wore what made me feel right. I did my makeup in the mornings without hesitation, without shame. Mom watched me with a quiet, knowing smile, like she'd always known Lena existed. But Emma didn't call. Her silence was heavier than her words would have been. Then came Sunday morning, the kind that smelled like iced tea and warm sunlight. I was on the porch with Mom when a sleek red Lexus pulled into the driveway. Dana, a Mom's friend, stepped out, sharp in a blazer and jeans, clutching a folder. "Hey," she called, waving. Mom rose. "Dana. Didn't expect you today." Dana's eyes flicked past Mom, then narrowed as they landed on me. She stepped closer, scanning me carefully. "Wait a second," she said slowly. "Is that your daughter?" Mom's expression didn't change. I gave a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. Dana tilted her head, smiling faintly, but there was curiosity and suspicion in her gaze. I was talking to Rachel and Jeanette after brunch. We couldn't remember you ever mentioning a daughter before. She's shy, Mom said evenly, calm but private. Dana chuckled, tilting her head. No kidding. Because when I checked Facebook, I saw some old photos, a boy named Tyler. Looks just like her. A cold silence fell. Dana stepped closer. Care to explain that? The wind picked up, stirring my hair across my face. Without thinking, I brushed it back with a delicate motion that felt entirely natural. Not Tyler. Lena. And for the first time, I didn't stop myself. I'm her daughter, I said, my voice trembling but steady with pride. My name is Lena. Dana's eyes roamed over me, sharp and calculating. That's quite the trick, she said slowly. It's not a trick, I replied firmly. It's the truth. She didn't answer. She just stared for a long moment, then turned her gaze to Mom. I hope you know what you're doing. Mom didn't flinch. I do. Dana didn't press further. She gave a curt nod and walked away, leaving me shaking and breathless. I sank into a chair, my chest pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Mom sat beside me, taking my hand gently. She's going to talk, I whispered. She already did, Mom said softly. But that's not on you. I looked down at my hands. I just wanted one thing that was mine. And now it is, she said, squeezing my hand. You've made it real. The days that followed felt heavier, like the air itself had changed. It wasn't just Dana. Word spread. Rachel and Jeanette stopped messaging Mom. Neighbors we used to nod at now offered awkward half-smiles. Even the mailman hesitated, unsure whether to address me as Miss or Sir. And then there was Emma's silence. I checked my phone obsessively, counting every hour. Nothing. Until Wednesday. Emma, I need to talk to you today. Boardwalk. Afternoon. My hands trembled as I read it. The boardwalk. Crowded, public. No hiding behind walls, no whispered words. She wanted to see me as Lena, in the open, fully. I spent nearly an hour in front of my closet, trying on outfit after outfit. Too casual. Too girly. Too forced. Finally, I settled on something that felt like me, a soft white blouse, high-waisted jeans, nude flats. A touch of lip gloss, a flick of mascara, enough to feel like Lena, not a costume. When I walked into the living room, Mom looked at me and smiled, quiet and steady. She handed me her favorite sun hat. It suits you, she said. I hugged her long and hard, like I might never get another chance. The boardwalk was alive with summer energy, strollers, skateboards, ice cream carts, the sound of laughter and crashing waves. I found a spot near the railing and let my gaze wander to the water, heart hammering louder than the surf. Then I heard her voice behind me. I almost didn't recognize you. I turned. Emma stood there in a hoodie and jeans, hands stuffed in her pockets, her expression unreadable with curiosity, hurt, something softer tangled together. You look different, she said. I gave her a nervous smile. I feel different. We stood in silence for a moment, letting the waves and distant laughter fill the space between us. Then she asked softly, "Do you want to tell me everything?" We walked slowly along the pier. I told her about the curiosity, the stolen moments, the guilt, the way being Lena felt more honest than I ever had as Tyler. I spoke carefully, my voice raw but true. She listened the whole time, without interrupting. Finally, she stopped and turned to me, studying my face. So, where does that leave us? I hesitated, searching for words. I don't know. I still love you, but I understand if this is too much. Her eyes softened, and she reached out, tucking a stray strand of hair behind my ear. You're still you, she whispered. But I need to know something. What? If you could go back, never put on the dress, never try the makeup, would you? I shook my head without hesitation. No. That's when I started being honest with myself. She nodded slowly, letting the words sink in. Then I guess I need to decide if I can love the real you. And then I heard it. A voice, loud and familiar. Tyler? I froze. Emma turned toward the sound, brows knitting. Standing about 10 feet away was Chris, a classmate from high school I hadn't seen in over a year. He blinked at me, then at Emma, then back at me. His eyes widened. No way, he said, laughing. Tyler, is that really you? My chest tightened. He stepped closer, pointing a finger. Man, what are you even wearing? Are you serious right now? People passing by had started to glance over. My stomach sank. Emma stepped in front of me. Back off, Chris. But he didn't stop. Are you too, is this some prank? Halloween or something? Back off, I said, my voice low but trembling. Emma's tone sharpened. Seriously. Step away. He scoffed, a cruel smirk forming. Whatever. Just saying. People are going to talk. This is messed up. He laughed again, loud and bitter, and finally walked away, muttering something about freaks. I stood frozen, heart pounding, eyes stinging. Emma reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I need to go, I whispered. Lena, wait, she started, but I was already moving. I turned and ran down the pier, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to fall. I didn't get far before stopping at the edge of the boardwalk, in front of a boutique window with hanging jewelry and pastel dresses. I looked into the glass. For a moment, I saw both of me, Tyler and Lena, overlapping in the reflection. Same eyes, same soul, wrapped in different layers. My hands shook. I pulled off the sun hat, and just then a gust of wind snatched it from my fingers. The hat tumbled down the boardwalk, into the street, gone. I didn't chase it. Deep down, I knew I wasn't hiding behind hats or borrowed names anymore. I was Lena now, even if no one else understood it yet. By the time I got home, Mom wasn't back. The house felt impossibly quiet, heavier than ever. I went to my room and sank onto the bed, staring at the makeup scattered across the vanity, letting the weight of the day settle around me. The lipstick lay on the counter, the mascara wand abandoned, the wig perched neatly on its stand, and then I heard it. Lena. I spun around. Emma stood in the doorway, quiet but unwavering. She hadn't given up. I was scared, I admitted, voice small. She nodded, shoulders tense. So was I. She stepped in and sat beside me on the bed. For a long moment, we didn't speak, just let the quiet fill the room. I don't know where this leaves us, she said finally. But I know I want to understand. I met her gaze, and in that moment, especially after everything that had happened today, I believed her. She reached for my hand. I grasped it tightly, feeling the first steady, calm breath I'd taken in hours. Then the sound of the front door slamming echoed through the house. Footsteps. Voices. Multiple. My stomach lurched. I stood up, panic rising. Emma followed, her hand lightly brushing mine in reassurance. And then we saw them. Dana, Rachel, and Jeanette, standing in the entryway like storm clouds, eyes sharp and mocking. Mom stood behind them, arms crossed, calm but watchful. Rachel's eyes widened at the sight of me. Dana smirked. Well, looks like the rumors weren't lying. Jeanette pulled out her phone. This is going online. Emma stepped protectively in front of me, her jaw tight. Take one more picture, she said, voice cold, and I'll make sure it's the last one you ever take. I took a step forward, feeling the weight in my chest shift. No more hiding. No more pretending. I'm Lena, I said softly, letting the words fall like a declaration. And if you can't handle that, you don't belong in this house. Mom nodded behind me, pride shining in her eyes. The women exchanged glances, sour and judgmental, lips tight, expressions sneering. Dana leaned in slightly. We'll see what the rest of the town thinks, she said, and then they left, the click of the door leaving a strange emptiness behind. Emma stayed close, Mom on the other side. My hands shook, adrenaline and fear pulsing in my veins. I knew the storm wasn't over, it was only just beginning. That night, sleep refused me. Whispers, judgmental glances, threats, all buzzed in my head like angry bees. I lay in my soft pink pajamas, staring at the ceiling. The smudged mascara under my eyes reminded me of the tears I hadn't bothered to clean. The house was too quiet, the kind of quiet that made every sound feel louder. Emma had stayed for dinner, leaving afterward with a long, quiet hug. She kissed my cheek lightly, soft, reassuring, but not a promise, just something solid to hold on to. The next morning, the silence was heavy and unfamiliar. No knocks, no clatter from Mom, just a tense stillness. I padded into the kitchen and found her at the table, phone in hand, eyes red. Lena, she said, her voice trembling. I think they posted it. My stomach sank. What? She turned the phone toward me. There it was. Dana's Instagram post. A single photo of me, frozen mid-step in my denim skirt and cream blouse, taken from the living room. Caption, guess what Tyler's into now? Hundreds of likes. Scores of comments. Some laughing. Some cruel. Some worse. I felt the air leave my lungs. We can take it down, I said quickly, panic rising. We can report it, flag it. Mom shook her head slowly. Even if we do, it's out there now. Screenshots. Shares. God knows who had seen it by now. I sank into the chair, burying my face in my hands. Everything I had feared was happening. But the worst wasn't the fear. It wasn't the exposure. It was the shame, not for being Lena, but for feeling so fragile in the face of it, for letting the world shake me so badly. Then the doorbell rang. We both jumped. Don't, I started, panic tightening my chest. But Mom was already moving, her calm a stark contrast to my racing heart. She opened the door. It wasn't Dana, wasn't Rachel. It was Emma. And behind her, quietly, her mother. Emma's mom had never been warm toward me, not in a hostile way, but in that stiff, measured politeness that made everything feel scrutinized. Now she stood in the doorway, taking me in, the smooth legs, the soft pink robe, the painted nails, her expression unreadable. Good morning, she said tightly. Hi, I whispered, throat dry. My mind flashed to the photo online. Judgment. Condemnation. A lecture about ruining her daughter's life. But instead, she exhaled. Emma told me everything, she said. I don't fully understand it, but I want to. I almost broke down on the spot. Emma smiled faintly, a quiet reassurance. Told you she'd come around. We sat together in the living room. For the first time, Lena wasn't hidden. I explained everything, the curiosity, the guilt, the way this version of me, soft-spoken and expressive, had been quietly living inside for years. I told them it wasn't a joke, it wasn't a dare, it wasn't about tricking anyone. Emma's mom asked questions, some awkward, some careful, but she listened. When she finally left, she said, just be safe. People can be cruel. I nodded, because I already knew that. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Message, thought you should know. They're planning something. Be careful. No name. No clue. Just that. I showed Mom. She frowned, fingers drumming on the counter. You think it's about the post? Maybe, I said, though deep down I knew it wasn't just Dana's post. Something bigger was gathering. Something darker. That night, before bed, I stood in front of the mirror. I had washed off my makeup, removed the earrings, brushed out my hair. But Lena was still there, in my eyes, in the tilt of my shoulders, in the way I no longer tried to hide the softness in me. And yet, a chill ran through me. Lena wasn't just a secret anymore. She was visible. Vulnerable. A target. I heard rapid footsteps on the porch, heavy, deliberate. A faint flapping sound followed, paper against wood. I rushed to the door and flung it open. Nothing. Empty porch. Just the wind tossing a single sheet of paper at my feet. I picked it up, and my blood ran cold. Written in uneven, harsh letters. You can't hide forever, Tyler. Mom appeared behind me, eyes wide. She pulled me close, murmuring, "We'll get through this. Together." But all I could see was the paper. All I could hear was Dana's cruel laugh. All I could feel was Lena trembling, scared, yet unflinching, because no matter what, I wouldn't go back. I was her now.